My name is Paul Kelpine, and I serve as a professor of history, and I also teach some courses in theology at Martin Luther College in New Ulm, Minnesota. My path to being a college professor takes me back a few years. I have actually taught on the college level for 25 years, and even a little bit more. So I did not start out in my college training to be a history professor. My original intent was to become a Lutheran pastor. So I took a pre-seminary course of study on the college level, which meant that I took a lot of language study. Already in high school, I studied Latin and German. On the college level, I studied Latin, German, Greek, and Hebrew, all of those languages, as preparation to go on to the seminary. I also took a lot of history courses in college, and so a person might consider that I had a kind of a minor in history. But my goal really was to go to the seminary. I went to the seminary then for 3 classroom years, and then I had 1 year of an internship, and that was spent at a Lutheran congregation in Marietta, Georgia. My primary responsibilities, I teach. In each semester, I teach 3 courses. Sometimes I will teach multiple sections of a course. So I am one of the primary instructors in general education, Western civilization. So every college student will have to take some general education history courses along the way. And I happen to teach in both semesters. I teach everything, honestly, everything from ancient history up into the 20th century. Yeah, well, I mean, for me, I grew up with a dad who was a history professor. I honestly didn't initially have that as a goal in mind. Again, my goal in mind was to be a pastor. But along the way, I had all kinds of opportunities to actually do teaching. And so therefore, when it got to a point where I was given this opportunity to teach at the college level, I knew what teaching was like. I knew that I was very interested in teaching history. And I grew up in a context where my father was a college professor. So it wasn't like I didn't know what college professors did. So to become a professor, you have to go to regular college, but then you also have to go to graduate school and get more advanced training, all of which does help. Graduate training is valuable. And it puts you in contact with things you may not have been in contact with before, and it exercises your intellectual ability to think, to articulate, to read, to write, to express yourself, all of those things. The most challenging part of teaching history, specifically teaching history, is that we, my own opinion, live increasingly in an ahistorical age. And so I think students think that way. I mean, the past is the past and it's over and it's done with. And if it's done, I'm moving on. So is that challenging? Yeah, it's challenging because I have students sitting in front of me, a fair number of whom don't see the reason why they're doing it. All of education is history. Your entire educational program are people whose experiences in life they are passing along to you. Their way of thinking they are passing along to you because they have found this a valuable thing to consider. And history therefore can serve as this point of contact to my present situation. What is the greatest joy? The greatest joy are students. And, sort of seeing the light bulb go on or helping them become interested. I mean, I always tell them, I can't make you interested in this. If you say to me, I'm not a history person, I like science, but I don't like history. I can't make you interested in this, but I hope I can teach you its value. That what it is we are learning has some value for you, for your life, for your future life, for the context in which you live, all of those kinds of things. If you want to be a historian, you will have to be well read. You just do. You have to read about the past, and you have to read historians who have written about the past, because you're not only learning the facts and names and those sorts of things, you also need to understand how historians have interpreted those facts and people and situations, occurrences. The Protestant Reformation is an era in history, and I guess I would say, what is the chief significance of the Protestant Reformation? For historians, they will consider the Protestant Reformation as the aspect of history in the Western world, particularly in Europe, which brought the European world out of its medieval sense, or out of the Middle Ages, and into what historians will call the modern era. So the Protestant Reformation is a break theologically with Roman Catholicism that has an impact also on the political and social situation, because in the Middle Ages, these were so interconnected that if you're going to fracture them a little bit and say Roman Catholicism, we're going to leave Roman Catholicism, well, then that's going to have an impact also on the social order and political order as well. But I would say you must understand, I think, that the reformers, when they are talking chiefly theological things. And they believe Roman Catholicism has become layered with false approaches, or has clouded over the theology of the church in ways that they want to clarify it. And they want to get back to the truth, in essence. And so most of the Protestant Reformation is a get back to the basics, get back to the authority of the Bible. Let's talk about the authority of the Bible. Next thing happens, it's going to impact politics and social order. Now, my own opinion is that even if Luther hadn't nailed the 95 Theses, and it hadn't happened that way, that they were sort of printed and promoted and that sort of thing, the Reformation would have happened anyway. Would it have happened on the same course of events? Probably not. But there was reforming tendency already out there. John Wycliffe, for instance, has already been talking in the 14th century in England at Oxford and so forth, right? John Hus has already been talking about there are errors in Roman Catholicism. We need to reform things in the 15th century. Luther comes along at the beginning of the 16th century, 1517, writes the 95 Theses. He's not the first guy to do this. It's been, thought of before. And then after Luther, or I should say almost concurrent with some of what Luther's doing, you have a guy like John Calvin in France, or Zwingli in Switzerland. Or you're going to have reformers up in England, because Henry VIII lives at the exact same time as Martin Luther's living. So the English Reformation's happening concurrently. And there are English reformers that, they're talking. What is Reformation again? Reformation is saying there are errors or problems with the status quo of Christianity in Western Europe, and the status quo is Roman Catholicism. So these are all talking theological things.